Okay, so we have a question here about childcare costs, and it's telling us that it's normally distributed, which means that if you were to lay out all the various different childcare costs, the biggest number of them would be kind of clustered here in the middle around the mean, and they tell us the mean or the average is $10,000. And then obviously you have people who pay above average for childcare costs, and there's fewer of them. And then, of course, you have other people who pay less than the average child care cost. So it's asking us to find the percent of daycare costs that are more than $7,600 annually. So the mean is $10,000, or the average is this $10,000. We are trying to figure out what percent of people pay more than $7,600. Okay, so what, in other words, if we were to lay out a normal curve, what percent of all of these people are right here in this direction to the left of 7,000? Or I'm sorry, I don't know why I just said to the left, to the right of 7,600, because it says what percent are more than 7,600. So to find the area of the curve that is to the right of 7,600, we first need to turn 7,600 into something called a z-score. And you might remember from your text that to find a z-score, you take the value, you subtract the mean, and then you take that number and divide it by the standard deviation. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the value. And again, the value we're talking about is 7,600. And I'm going to subtract the mean. So I'm going to do 7,600 and I'm going to take away 10,000. So 7,600 minus 10,000. To get myself a blank piece of paper to write on here. So 7,600, take away 10,000, and that gives me negative 2,400. Then I have to divide it by the standard deviation. And so we know from the problem, they told us that the standard deviation is 2,000. So I'm going to take that negative 2,400, and then I'm going to divide it by 2,000. And again, that's because it's the standard deviation that was given to us in the problem. So once I divide that out, negative 2,400 divided by 2,000, I get a z-score of negative 1.2. So what does that z-score help me to figure out? It helps me to figure out what part of the area is under a certain part of the curve, and I'll show you what I mean. So right now we've got our z-score of negative 1.2. So I'm going to go to the z-score table that is provided by the text. I'm going to click on page 1 because that's where the negative z-scores are. So you'll see here at the top, across the top, are like 0, 1, etc. So I need to scroll down. First of all, I need to scroll down to negative 1.2 on the table. And then again, because the z-score that we're looking up is just a plain old 1.2. There's no like other extra decimals after the 0.2. So that's why we're going to use this first column, because it's the one that just has 0, 0 above it. So the z-score that I'm going to use is the one that's next to the negative 1.2 and underneath the zeros. So I'm going to look right here. And I've got 0.1151. Now, what does that 0.1151 tell me? It tells me the area to the left of the z-score. So, on a normal curve, so again, here was that z-score of a negative 1.2. What we just found out from the table is how much area is right here to the left of negative 1.2. And again, that value was 0.1151. Now, so that tells us how much was here to the left. The table always tells you what's to the left. The question, however, though, as you recall from the question, is asking you how many people have child care costs that are greater than $7,600. So greater is over here to the right, right? So what the question is really asking us for is how much area is on this side of 1.2. But that's okay. It's still easy for us to make that determination because the area of the entire curve, so the area underneath the whole thing, would be represented by the whole number 1. Okay, because it's literally how much falls under one whole curve. So if I know that the part to the left is this part, then all I need to do is subtract 1 minus, because the whole thing is a 1, so I just need to subtract to find how much is actually on this side of the curve. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract 1 minus 0.1151. If I do that, I get 0.8849. So in other words, 0.8849 of the area is over here to the right, greater than that z-score. Now, it asks us for a percent, and right now we have a decimal. So to turn a percent into a decimal, to turn a decimal into a percent, remember you take that decimal point and you move it 2 places to the right. So that means our final answer that they're asking us for is 88.49%.